For more on the future and other tech topics, we are joined by Peter Sondergaard, Executive Vice President and Global Head of Gartner's Research and Advisory Services. Welcome to the show. Great to have you here. So your new global IT spending forecast came out, and 6.2% growth forecast for 2018, which is the highest in over a decade. And if you break it down, enterprise software and devices outgrow the other segments. Why is that? And what other highlights are you seeing in terms of spending?
Well, I mean, consumers are still spending on devices, which obviously drives the device side of things. And we also see a lot of spending on traditional software still around the world. What is happening, however, broadly speaking, is software is eating the world. Software is essentially becoming the main part of spending. The major part of that is in cloud, whether it's cloud infrastructure, cloud application software. So that's really the major global shift that's happening. It's software, it's cloud software.
But China a little bit more reluctant in cloud?
I think we're seeing some variations across China. There is still for example, substantial growth rate in things like server technology. It grew 26%. There's growth in communication equipment, which also grew just above 20%. So there's segments that are still buying into an on-premise solution. That can be for security reasons, but it can also just be a transition that's happening. In many instances, though, China is among the top 10 growing markets globally, and it is the only one of the very large markets that is growing more than 10%.
We just had a story saying how China outspent the US in funding artificial intelligence startups, and the government has set these ambitious targets. Every investor I know is putting money into AI, but right now it seems to be AI chips and facial recognition. What about the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, right now the investments are really infrastructure based, and that's the right place to be right now. Companies are also spending more on augmentation of decisions in form of AI, a little bit also on chatbots and smart extensions. What we will see very soon is a shift to not decision augmentation systems, but decision systems, and then of course smart products. We will very soon see that software will dominate products, and that software will be artificial intelligence based to really augment the value of products.
So give us some examples of, say, in healthcare.
I think in healthcare, we're actually right now seeing first the major industries right now are heavy industry, and then the pharmaceutical part of the healthcare industry. That's for research and development purposes, and I think that's why artificial intelligence is so good for humanity. It will actually help us with the huge challenges that we have around the globe around health. That gradually flows into products that help in hospitals in terms of decision support, help doctors make better predictions. It helps, in fact, on self-diagnostics for us as individuals so that we can actually diagnose ourselves for certain things. And that's where artificial intelligence is really the heart of technology, is really the heart of society going forward.
And there's debate about China and the US in the AI future. China with its vast troves of data, its ambitious government targets and capital being thrown at it, and then that sort of the passion, creativity and innovation that you see in, for example, Silicon Valley. So what do you think?
I think there's goodness in both. I think if we go back in history, we would not have our mobile phones had it not been for the European nations creating the GSM standards. That was a government-funded initiative, and we now have creativity on top of those phones that we see here in China. Large companies, Alibaba, Tencent, Baidu, are created on the basis of a government-funded initiative. So I think it is what advances us. But creativity also helps us as a human race, so building creativity on top of that is, I think, the value proposition. So I think both will live along each other and actually support what we're going to see happen as a revolution in technology the next 10 years.
So hopefully that ecosystem remains open instead of people protecting their own creations. And I think you talked about this in addressing the previous question, but right now when we talk about artificial intelligence, it's mostly analytics and machine-based learning. So what's the next phase in the journey?
The next phase is that we get sort of more neural software technologies that mimic really the way in which our brains work. And those technologies will be really the decision-based systems that happen. So they are the ones that will start to take certain jobs away, probably lower white-collar jobs in, say, repetitive tasks, like, for example, determining an insurance policy. That is something that you can have these decision systems do. So that's where we see the next sort of growth phase. And it will also be driven very much by the fact that we're switching from focusing primarily on AI that is about customer experience and cost optimization into it generates new revenue.
Great. Thank you so much. So AI is not so scary after all.
No.
We're going to adjust from job losses to creation. Thank you so much, Peter Sondergaard, who's Executive Vice President and Global Head of Research, or Gartner's Research and Advisory Services. Okay, on to something a little bit fun.